Hey now, welcome to the Dirty Side of the Track, America's leading Formula One podcast. That's Rob, I'm Brian. Today was the Spanish Grand Prix, and boy was it better than I was expecting it to be, even before the safety car question. Welcome everybody. How are you, Rob?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks. So I'm just trying to keep my temper so that I don't fly into a rage and then have to miss this podcast. Um,
Oh, or just, Lance. What did Lance do?
yeah. When do you want to tackle the Lance subject? Let's welcome people to the dirty side and lay out the land of the episode. And if you're new to the dirty side, what we will do is cover the news and social that caught our eye this week. Brian's video vault will be
Skinny, unlike me.
skinny, but not empty like
Yeah,
previous week.
right.
Then we'll pick apart all the bones of the race weekend, including Pitlane Paul reviews and King of the Pits and the Pits Awards from myself and Brian. We'll take a look at our casino games updates, the drivers and WCC stand-ins, a little bit of a fantasy update. And then, well, we haven't got a race preview, so we'll talk about next week. But I don't know what next week's going to be yet. So that's the lay of the land. Do you want to hit the land stuff now or wait until we get to the race weekend?
Let's get to the race weekend. I think it was the headline until the race and the end of the race, and now it's kind of like a footnote. And I think
True.
a footnote deserves
Okay.
to fall in chronological order.
So let's first dine out on, again, previous weeks we've said that some of the big guns are listening to the dirty side now, and another one is Toto.
Welcome,
He
Toto.
listened, obviously, yeah, thanks Toto. He listened to our suggestions last week about how to improve Monaco. Would be, yeah, keep maybe the mandatory two-stopper, but add to it some kind of ability to stamp out this driving slowly stuff. We were kicking it around about, like, surely you could do some math to work out what the delta is, the same way they do during quali to stop people driving too slowly. It's exactly what Toto's come out. He said if you're too far off the pace, there should be a penalty. We suggested blue flags. He wants a penalty, but that was one of them. But Alex Wirtz, previous driver and now track designer, came up with something. I've watched a video on this actually as well. Somebody was pulling this apart. I meant to send it to you to put in the vault, so maybe we'll put it in the newsletter version of the vault.
Sure, yeah. Which is a good
He's
reminder. Subscribe to the newsletter.
Oh, yeah, and tell your friends. He's come up with three changes that wouldn't require huge changes to Monaco, but he believes would lead to drastic, better overtaking action. So what he's saying is, if you widen the entry to Razkas, so you move the apex out a few meters, and then you extend the width of the corner, so there's a little bit to the left-hand side where posh people stand and get premium Rascas tickets. Well, he's saying, yeah, unlucky, you got to give that up because I'm going to take that and I'm going to make a wider corner with an apex which is a bit further out. So you open up that corner to create multiple ways through it and encourage the dive bomb, which is going to be a recurring theme of his changes. So
Encourage dive on, but also maybe have some jeopardy on that not so pit straight, right? I mean,
yeah,
because now you're closer coming out of Razkaz. The way it is today, you come out of Razkaz, it's single file. And
it's
there's no jeopardy on that straight.
agree. So he's kind of saying now a car wouldn't be able to occupy the whole track going through Raskas. You're going to have multiple lines if you widen it and pull the apex out. So that's change number one. Change number two is the hairpin, which is to do the same thing, which is to basically eat into the sidewalks that are there and also narrow the center point of the hairpin. So kind of, if you watch a video of this, like I say, we'll link it. Imagine where you've got the red and white curbs in the middle and they're a big sort of lobe into the middle of the hairpin. He's almost skinning it right down to a point. So what you get again is more room to have two lines through the hairpin, so that people then have to defend more going into the tunnel, which then sets him up for change number three, which is take the Nouvelle chicane and move it 80 yards further down towards Tabac. So you'd have to build another one. If you actually look at the marina, they built a little extension
Right.
to the harbour for where the chicane is now. You say no, move that, do another one of those, but 80 yards up, and make it a much tighter or wider, whatever it is, chicane. So again, encourage the dive bomb. So his idea is you set it all the way up at the hairpin. You've got multiple lines through the hairpin, which might require somebody to get offline to defend. They're defending into the tunnel. Now you've got a much longer drag through the tunnel to eventually a braking zone overtake point now, rather than the chicane that really isn't an overtake point at the moment. So those are the three. What do you think, Brian?
Well, first of all, I do like Toto listening. I think he probably, found the transcript and
I have it. I have it printed out.
then went around with it, holding it in his hand. Those are all fine ideas, and I'm open to anything. As you heard last week, I was incredibly frustrated with the fact that they went with a gimmick approach to make it more interesting, and it backfired. So not only did we have a gimmick that didn't work, we had people purposely going slowly, which is not what racing is about. So I struggled mightily with last week's race, and this Spanish Grand Prix was exactly what I needed. That said, I don't know if you're aware of this, Rob. Not only was Toto listening, but the entire Mercedes garage, because I'm going to play a 30-second clip from George, post-race interview, and I've been sitting on this, so you didn't know about it the whole week. He listens to you. I don't know why he doesn't listen to me, because I'm the smart one, but he listens to you. Assuming I can get the audio to actually make noise, which is going to be, here it is. It's fixed now. Here it is. Here's George.
Yeah, I've got a really good idea.
Go on.
So every driver has a button that they get a chance to put the sprinklers on around the track. So you get a choice if you want to do it in qualifying or in the race. But you can only do it once in the whole weekend.
Right. But every driver has that.
Every driver, yeah. I think okay, one driver from one team then.
You've got a golden ticket under your seat.
Yeah, and then the sprinklers come on, spices it up a bit. Yeah. You don't know when it's going to happen. I think that's the only,
I mean, I love it.
I think that's the only solution.
That is exactly what you've been saying forever about any race that's boring, especially Monaco. Turn the sprinklers on.
Yep.
George and you are on the same wavelength.
Well, no more. Again, George and Toto in the entire Mercedes garage listen to the dirty side of the track, appreciate what we say, but then they know that if they say, oh, we were listening to the dirty side of the track, people won't understand it. So they just pass it off as their own ideas, and I'm fine with that. Well done, Mercedes. If you want to invite us in to hang out with you in Canada, we'll come and give you some more ideas.
Definitely. In addition, and this was yours, but I saw this as well, Morocco is pushing to host a race, which will be the second African, or third even. I think there was a Rwanda conversation at one point as well. With South Africa and Kyle Army. And so it's, obviously Morocco is incredibly beautiful on the northern part of Africa, and Tangiers, just south of Tangiers, is where this is a possible opportunity. And they would do a humongous development, a big situation where they'd have a purpose-built track, which I love to hear. Yes. That's music to my ears.
Not a street circuit.
Not a street circuit. And Tangiers, I mean, I would love to go. That's like, if they put that on the calendar, put that on my bucket list.
Did you see the render of this?
No, I didn't even see it.
Oh my gosh. They did this render of what it would look like on the coastline. Like spectacular, and they said it's going to be a grade 1 circuit fit to host F1, wet, MotoGP, a theme park, a shopping mall, hotels, a marina. It did look pretty sweet.
It did. And then this is not an F1 story, but we love Top Gear and the Grand Tour. This week it was announced that there's a new trio for the Grand Tour, and I have to just highlight that they're restarting the Grand Tour, which I would love. Yeah, Rob shaking his head. I would love for them to say, let's call it something else and format it something differently, as opposed to trying to fill those shoes. Just give them different shoes and let them do their own thing. It's the
100%.
Yeah, it's the duo from Throttle House on YouTube. I do watch Throttle House, not all the time, but I do find them pretty good. Thomas Holland and James Inglesman. I enjoy them, but then they're being joined by someone I was not aware of, a train spotting person named Francois Bourgeois. And his real name is something other than that, Luke Nicholson, who's a social media genius who likes train spotting and is apparently becoming a model. All right, so let's see if these three can make chemistry happen, because we all know it ain't all about the driving. It's about the camaraderie and the way they bring you in to be part of the driving and the experiences. So that's just a quick note to say I'm excited. I will watch. I'll go in optimistic, eyes wide open, with all my hopes high. But please don't try to totally replicate the Grand Tour or Top Gear, because that's unreplicatable.
And that's where it all fell down after those three left and before the Grand Tour sparked up and they tried to keep Top Gear going. They tried too hard to carry on all the japes and kind of forced chemistry between the hosts, and it just, like you say, they're just so different. Everyone loves, well, maybe not everyone, but lots of folk like you and I like watching car shows where it's not just about the cars, but there's something a little bit wacky to it. So just let them find their own way. Just please
and the
don't
Throttle
try
House
and
guys,
do the Grand Tour again. Please don't.
Yeah, I agree. But I also say this, the two guys on Throttle House do have that. Like, they get along pretty well, and I do enjoy watching them. I'm not saying they're, Richard and Jeremy again, but they've got a good base to start with.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit skeptical, because if those two get along like, buds like Richard and Jeremy, they brought the train spotter in, or Captain Slow, the boring one. I mean, it just feels like they're trying to... Anyway, let's get back to Formula One.
Yeah,
so
please.
we know that the FIA presidential elections are coming up, and Carlos Sainz Sr. was throwing his hat into the ring. I think Susie Wolf was at one point going to be looking at it as well.
Yep.
It all just sounds like it might not really be anything to write home about in terms of a close election. The 36 auto clubs, and I didn't find out how many that's out of, so this 36 might not be a huge number, but the way it was being reported sounds like it's a big number. But 36 auto clubs have put their name on a document which encourages Ben Suleiman to get re-elected. So it sounds like he's got a big backing of a big number of the auto clubs around the world. So I don't know. It's kind of, why do that? Why come out? Just have an election, just make it open and...
Do other people not dislike this guy too? I don't understand. It's like Formula One people dislike him. Everyone else loves him. Half the people that work for him have quit in scandalous ways.
Know.
And then he came out and said, raw deals have been given to the FIA. It doesn't make sense to me that one Formula One driver and one team principal make more money than all of the FIA, and the FIA owns the championship. Is that fair? Yes, actually it is. It's 100% fair. Thank you for asking the question. Case closed. Move on. No one tunes in to watch you shake people's hands. We appreciate the structure with which you create, which allows Formula One to create a championship, but we tune in for the drivers. We tune in for the cars and the teams. We tune in for zero of the FIA. None of it.
I'm going to try and make an American link here, but my knowledge is really out of date. But it would be the equivalent of moaning that the person in charge of the NBA doesn't make as much money as Michael Jordan did back in the day.
Exactly. We don't tune in to watch the commissioner.
Did I nail that?
Good enough. Even though the commissioner makes like $30 million now, but let's not talk about that because it kind of undoes your argument.
Yeah, but the stars must make more than that. Anyway, Alonso, and then this is kind of, I think we've seen some of this, but anyway, Alonso said that the experience of working with Newey trackside at Monaco for the first time was fantastic. He said, I think the way he sees things on the car, even when it's static in the pit lane, he's just able to talk about things we could have done better or we might want to do better in the future. So they're already kind of saying that without him even getting his pencil out and designing anything, he's just wandering around in the paddock and going, you sure you want to do that? May I suggest that you do blah, 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 blah. And I think we're seeing, I know they had upgrades on as well, but I think we're seeing a little bit of maybe an upturn in Aston Martin's fortunes.
Yeah.
Lance Stroll aside, we'll get there in a minute.
We'll talk about our boy Ambulance in a minute here. Yeah, good for them. Speaking of teams moving places in terms of feelings and vibes, young people say vibes. It's all about the vibes. Look at me, the Rizzler with the vibes. And so as we sit here and talk about Aston Martin, we got to talk about Sauber. Now, yes, Nico had a great race today and is in the points, and we'll talk about their best finish in like 3.5 years since Valtteri Bottas, friend of the pod. We'll play that later at the right time. But Mattia Binotto warned that the new Audi engine won't be the best on the grid, which is always something you want to hear. There's one thing to like manage expectations, but to come out and say that I know this well because I was an engine engineer. It's much more complex and complicated than one might imagine watching races as a spectator. And then he comes out and says how the engine just won't be ready on time. We focused on ourselves. We know that 2026 will not be the year in which we'll be at the top. We won't have the best power unit, but the path that has been taken is the right one, I'm confident. Dang, man, you don't have to lower expectations that far.
Really? I mean, it's just stating the obvious, isn't it? Here comes a new engine manufacturer that, guess what, won't nail it straight out of the gate and be at the top. He's just trying to say, like, we won't be the best, we're not going to be right up there straight away, but we're on the right path that we hope we will in a couple of years. I mean, that's just what we all think about the Audi project anyway, right?
But, I mean, you don't have to come out and say the engine's going to be crap.
But what's he supposed to say? Come out and say, I reckon we're going to be pole position in the first race and win it by 30 seconds.
Have you seen anyone from Red Bull come out and say the Ford power unit's going to be crap?
No, but we don't.
Isn't that the same?
I don't know. They've been working in partnership for a while, haven't they? They can like pick up. Look at these guys. They got to pick up the Sauber engine and go, oh God, what are we doing with that?
I mean, that's true. Do you think Ford got the Honda like schematics and like, here you go, copy something like this? It's got to be 50-50 power from the engine and battery. Who cares? Moving on. Let's open the vault because I want to get to the race weekend. Vault is open. Brian's video vault. I don't normally sing this part if you're new. All right.
Please never sing it again.
I won't. I have one. I was traveling again this week, which means I've been on the road since forever. Oscar Piastri reacts to fans' unmissable messages on the Hilton channel. Man, I'm telling you, like, I only had 5 minutes. I didn't go to Williams. I didn't go to Ferrari. I went to Hilton. I said, what you got for me in terms of F1 content? Hilton. And they hooked me up. If you only have 3 minutes of the 6-minute video, you'll get the point and can move on. I stayed for the full 6 because I am pot committed to this vibe here. Look at me vibing still. It's basically they printed social media messages on everything they could print it on. There's your video. Should I close the vault, Rob? Or
Close the vault. And maybe don't sing your way out of the vault either.
I really wanted to. God, I wanted to. Race weekend. Talk to me, my friend.
Race weekend. So, hey, I'm just going to reduce practice FP123 down to vibes. Because that's what the young people say. So these are the vibes I got from free practice, right? So, FP1, Norris quickest. FP2, Piastri quickest. Colapinto slowest in both. But the V-carbs were quicker than Yuki in both. FP3, both McLarens lead the way. Leclerc and Russell look feisty and ahead of Max, who was only 7 thousandths ahead of Isaac. And that was practice in a nutshell. Now, I did miss something because I didn't get to watch all of it. And I think somebody went off, and we may have had some kind of flag of some sorts, but I missed it. So unless you saw it, Brian, whatever.
Didn't. But I got a note from listener Andy, another good SAP stat that I thought I'd share. Thought for the day. And this is from Joe Soward. Thought of the day. This is going into the weekend. This will be the 9th F1 race in 11 weeks on 4 continents. Is that bonkers or what? Dang, that is a lot. We had a couple triple headers, and then we had a double, and then I thought it was 12. I thought we had 3 gaps, but regardless, that is insane on 4 continents. So next time someone says they've sort of rationalized the calendar and schedule, not fully enough yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good stat. It's not a stat we didn't know when we saw the calendar published at the beginning.
I know, but the compact aspect, 9 races, 4 continents, I mean, that is a lot.
That's how a calendar works. We could have seen this right at the beginning, but okay.
Andy, I like the stat. I'm with you. Don't listen to Rob.
It's a good stat. It's not really new news, is it? It's like someone going, hey, Tuesday follows Monday. Well, here we go. Into qualy, where I had to pray that the awful Wi-Fi at the swim meet that I was at was I was gonna hold on to the slither of 1 bar signal to be able to watch quali, and thankfully it worked out for me. However, forgot to take my charger with me, so what it did require between each of Q1, Q2, Q3 was me to run back to my car, where there is no cell signal at this swimming pool whatsoever. So run back to the car, plug the car in, turn the car on, charge as much as I could before the next round of quali started, and then run back to the swimming pool to get Wi-Fi. There we go. You don't really need to know the backstory of how I watch quali, but that's how I watch quali.
Well, I appreciate you telling me, because now my life is full.
It is. It's absolutely brimming. So, oh dear, Q1. So, Tsunoda finished 20th. 20th, man.
I was watching this, and yes, he had an expedition off the track, which may have damaged his floor. Basically, there are 2 excuses, right, that Formula 1 drivers use all the time in team principles. Anytime you favor someone or swap cars, it's strategy. We're on different strategies. They could be on the same tires at the same point of the race, and you're like, can you get out of the way, Bortoletto? We're going to let Hulk through. They're on different strategies. Yeah, one's called being better than the other. And then whenever anyone has a slight off or hits a curb and then has a poor performance, floor damage. No one will ever be able to know. Yeah. Damage the floor.
Oh,
Did Yuki damage the floor? I'd like to think so. Because I read earlier in the week, and I didn't save this, that Max said about Yuki, obviously something's wrong with the car. He's not a pancake. I think that's what he said. I don't remember. He called him something weird. He's not a
He did
waffle.
use the word pancake.
There was a breakfast food.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Neither do I. I'm not down with the youth, so I don't know what a pancake is.
It could be horribly offensive. I don't get it, so apologies if I offended anybody. But he's not a turd in the punch bowl. He's not bad. I don't know what else to say that would be funny there. He's a good driver. We've seen that of Yuki. How does he go out 20th? And The memes were fantastic at this point. The pictures of Gasly and Albon and Checo and Liam and all of the other Red Bull drivers, Kvyat, all over the years. They had Ricardo in there, which is sort of inappropriate, but we'll leave it in. And they're like, welcome to heaven. And they're welcoming him up. I'm like, this car, I'm feeling bad for Yuki now. I was excited for him for many moons, and now I'm like, he go back to V-Carb? And like, because he would kick some butt there with Isaac. Can you imagine that team back together again?
I know. And then moving one up, a familiar sight now that tell you what, you take the crash out of Crasher Pinto, and I think you get slower Pinto, because he is keeping it on the road. He is not crashing, but that bright young thing that we saw come in last season, where he was just taking the risks and ripping it up, and then unfortunately seemed to trade pace for crashes. They've obviously had a word in his ear. They keep saying, don't crash, finish races. That's what he's doing.
Well,
but
the Pinto was a car made in America, a horrendous car that if you bumped into it, it exploded. So once you take the crash out of Crasher Pinto, you're just left with a Pinto, and that ain't going anywhere fast.
And we had Sainz go out of his home race. This was not a good weekend for Williams at all.
Bad weekend.
At all. Ocon, and then Hulkenberg. So he's going to be 16th. And I mean, you're not going to finish anywhere from 16th on the grid, so unlucky Hulkenberg. Moving on.
Yep, we go to Q2. We lost Ollie Behrman. We lost Lance Stroll. We're going to come back to him in just a second. Liam Lawson, Gabriel Bortoleto, which was interesting because he out-qualified Nico, and we're like, oh, look at Bortoleto with the pace. Hold your beer there, young man, because Nico Hülkenberg has something to say about it. And then Albano goes out in Q2. The good news for Williams was in both quali sessions, Alex didn't damage any wings. He saved all of his wings for the race. Most people saved tires for the race. Albon saved his front wings for the race and used all of them before he flew home.
Yeah, so Mr. Stroll, let's hit it now.
Yeah.
I know it got announced after quali, but we then saw the story break that he was going to withdraw from the Grand Prix, and the official Aston Martin statement was that he's been feeling pain in his wrists for the past 6 weeks, apparently, and it just became too much to bear that he won't be able to race tomorrow. And this instantly got all the online accounts swirling of, hang on a minute, if the pain's that bad, why let him do quali?
Exactly.
Because the moment he does quali, no reserve driver can come in and take over now. So if he was really feeling it in FP1 or 2 or 3 even maybe,
exactly,
just sort of say, this wrist is really playing up. There's just no way I can do this. So it was either completely selfish to not mention that you had this pain and then pull out of the race and leave them one car down. Then a different story broke. I shared this with Brian about a couple of hours ago. BBC News put out a story that he had a temper tantrum in the back of the garage after quali and had broken some equipment and sworn at team members. But then they were quickly, Aston Martin were quick to say, but that and his injury is not connected. Now, coming out and saying it's not connected just makes you more think, is it connected?
Well, I mean, we don't know what he did to his wrist or what's wrong with his wrist or wrists. We have no idea. He did have them both fixed in 23 right before Bahrain after his bicycle accident. Did he exacerbate something? Maybe. Did he throw a temper tantrum and do something to his wrist? Possibly. We have no idea. We have no real clue. But what will end up happening is they have to go, if he's not ready to go by Canada, which we don't know too much about, they don't have a lot of reserve drivers because of the Le Mans race, and most of their, not all, but I think most of the reserve drivers are booked for Le Mans. So I'd like to offer my services to Mr. Lawrence Stroll. I know you're from Canada. I'm from North America, Chicago. It's close. I love Canada. I'd be happy to put a maple leaf on my hat and go drive around the track as fast as I can. So yeah, if Lance isn't available and your backup drivers are gone and you don't want to use Valtteri for reasons I don't understand because they're a Mercedes customer and isn't that how that works? Because isn't Valtteri a McLaren reserve driver?
Yeah, but I think they have to get some kind of agreement in place. Oh. So I don't know that they've signed the paper. I mean, if you're in, I'm in. I'll be a race engineer. I can.
I was going to say, you're more fit than I am. You should drive the car and I'll be the engineer.
Whichever way. But I'm just thinking, we got the F1 movie coming out with the elder statesman coming in. you could be Sap Pit, and you'll make Alonso look young, and I'll be your race engineer, and I'll just keep telling you when all the drivers are about to lap you. I'll make sure that you know to get out of the way.
Do you remember when I suggested that some of these longer races have a VSP, so that there'd be a potty break partway through where they just neutralize the race? Could we do like an intermission? Like, 30 laps into Canada, we just all pull over and use the bathroom and come back out and start it over? Because my bladder won't hold it that long. It's a different kind of pit stop.
So, anyway, that's Stroll. He wouldn't be taking place in the race. We'll be down to 19 starters, and I'm sure more of this will come out over the next few days, which took us into Q3, where over the course of Q1 and Q2, it was kind of looking like this was likely to be a McLaren story. But we had Verstappen being joined by Russell and being joined by the two Ferraris as kind of being this will they, won't they? Because I think we genuinely went into Q3 thinking it's maybe anyone from 5 who can take pole here, because it just looked that way. It was just sort of, there wasn't really like an out-and-out obvious. Maybe you'd favour the McLarens. But then the McLarens just seemed to nail it, like, really, really well.
Over and over again. Yeah, we had Oscar obviously doing the best in Q3. Taking pole by a couple tenths, which was a decent distance to Lando, who was already...
Somebody said... Yeah. Oh, sorry, Brian. I think somebody said that's the biggest delta between first and second on the grid this year in qualifying.
It feels like it. It feels like they've been all very close. So for a couple tenths, that was a material difference. I mean, that's almost the difference between new and used tires. I mean, that's how big a difference that is. Max right behind, tied with George. We don't get a lot of ties to the tenths, hundredths, thousandths point, and I'm not going to say 1,000ths because I get yelled at on the Discord, but to the thousandths point. And so, yeah, we had Russell and Max tied, but Max did it first, so he gets third on the grid, which was good for him because he's going to use that position in about 5 seconds time when we get to the race to tell you about it. But did Charles go out on a second run? I can't remember if he didn't
have enough tires. I was like, I put the notes in. I'm like, Charles didn't go out again? He thought that was enough? I mean, it was never going to be enough, but apparently didn't have the tires to make another run. Had eaten through too many to secure his Q1 and Q2 advancing.
Well, it helped him in the race when he had that extra set of mediums, even though the safety car undid a little bit of that for him.
Yeah.
But that was nice. And then Alonso, can we talk about this? I know he loves his home race, and I know it means a lot to him. He finished 10th in Q3. And he was out, like he'd done this early when he was up higher on the timesheet. And he was like celebrating, like you say, like a win. He was, yes, guys, yes, we did it.
He went up to something like
You're
fourth
like
or fifth
He
position.
was fifth.
Yeah.
He was fifth on the grid after the first set of runs. A whole other set of runs to come. The track's evolving. We all know that ain't going to stand. And he's like, we can park it, save the rest of the tires, pop the champagne now. I'm like, Fernando, okay.
Yeah. I know. And yet again, there he is down in 9th, Hadjar, the next best Red Bull driver. I mean, we are saying that every single race at the moment now. And he's just brilliant. Love him.
He's fantastic.
It was nice to see Alonso have some fun. He's had an absolute terrible season, so I'm not going to beat him up too much. But it was a bit weird to celebrate that hard.
Can we give a shout out to one other Frenchie? We already said Isaac, but Pierre was 8th. That was the quietest 8th I've ever seen. I watched quali, didn't even notice him on the track, didn't notice him finishing 8th. I know he made it into Q3, and they mentioned him once or twice. But then he was in... I've never seen witness protection used in quali, but it was used for Pierre. I'm like, was he even there?
When we get to the race, and the guy that does the start signals, he had somewhere to be today. He had somewhere to be, so we just wanted... I'm not holding
Has it ever been that fast?
I don't know. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go.
No, it was even faster than that. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go. I mean, it was instantaneous. The 5th light was on for 1/1000th of a second. You like that, Discord?
Nice.
Here's a 1,000th for you. It was so fast. It was so fast. But
Oscar,
everyone seemed ready. Everyone got away.
Yeah. Especially Oscar. I mean, absolutely nailed that start. I mean, the thing was that they'd had that whole commentary thing on the formation lap of, he's getting feedback from his engineers that his first clutch timing was okay and his second clutch percentage delta, I don't even know what Nico Rosberg was talking about at this point, but apparently it was bad. The Oscar had a terrible formation lap getaway. So obviously he's processing all of this and went, okay, yeah, if I have to divide that by 7 and carry the 3, that means I just need to floor it now. And off he went.
It was perfect. But Max also got a great start. And then Max and Lando were tangling towards the middle there. And they had George was sneaking around, Lewis was sneaking around, Charles was sneaking around back there. They're all kind of investigating what they could do. George lost in that battle. But as they were sneaking around, kind of checking out who was going to end up in 4th, what was fascinating to me was Max just said to Lando, yeah, you still don't get it, do you, mate? And he took him on the outside, and he just didn't back out. And Lando's like, all right, I don't want to crash. I'll back out. And I'm like...
That's this one thing that you've said that Lando hasn't done for the last few races, is don't hang it out there, go out there and get gobbled
and go
up by
drop
2, 3
15
cars.
spots back.
Just exactly. You've always said, look, just realize that it's a long race, tuck back in,
which is better.
And live to fight another day, which is exactly what he ended up doing.
Agreed. So we kind of see this happening. George is freaking out on the team radio about the car, about losing 2 spots at the stop, and immediately they play the team radio, and he's like, oh, the car is, I'm losing the rears. And instead of his race engineer coming on, it's Toto. He goes, calm down. And I'm like, whoa. Coming off the top rope, the boss's boss gets on the radio, is like, stop freaking out.
Basically, just concentrate and get on with it and stop being a whinger was kind of what I heard in that radio message. But then we had Leclerc looking suddenly feisty and suddenly found an extra gear that Hamilton didn't.
Did he, or did Hamilton just look slow? Hamilton looked slow most of the day.
Yeah, maybe it was that way around, but he was all over him, and what I loved. Maybe I'll have to do my little Nico Rosberg thing now rather than later. But so Nico Rosberg, I'm torn on as to whether I enjoy his commentary or not.
Me too.
I do like his insights.
Me
so
too.
He was like, he called it right before. He's like, right, Hamilton's engineer has to be on the radio to him now, tell him to hurry up, because if you don't hurry up, you're going to get the other call that you don't want in a minute, which is swap positions, and you don't want to hear that. And that's exactly what happened. So I like the insight side of it. The other side of it is that he doesn't seem to realize he's part of a partnership, and they have to kind of get us, the viewers, a little bit excited about things. And Nico is having none of that. Anytime Crofty says something which is even slightly wrong, Rosberg shuts him down. So, like, Crofty will, like, it will come up later in the race. Crofty was kind of like, oh, so-and-so's out on new mediums now, and at this pace race, he's probably going to be all over his gearbox by the end of the race. And Nico's like, nope, 16 laps, not enough.
Right.
Just shut him down.
As
and
opposed,
every time he did anything.
He did, I know. And Crofty never seems to get frustrated with it. And if I were him, he's frustrated. He doesn't like being corrected and shut down all day. Brundle will entertain him when he's wrong. He goes, that's a possibility, or we may see this. Nico's like, no, you're dumb. Stop talking. I raced.
Exactly.
2016 world champion. You? No. Me, yes. And so, like, I consider him also, we have Rob's rants. I think those are Rosberg rants. He gets on sometimes that drive me insane. But this particular race, most of his rants I agreed with. Most of his perspectives, I agree. I don't always. But like when he said, at the end of the race, when he talks about Leclerc and Max's contact, he's like, racing incident, no big deal. Shut up, Max. It's more you than Charles. And Max is moaning, and then they get the George thing. He goes, no, racing incident. And Max is freaking out. I'm like, at this point, he was doing it throughout the race on every call. Like Albon, he's like, just shut it down. You're having a horrible day. No move you've made has worked. Liam Lawson was in every crash with everybody. He's like, is it always Lawson? Yes, it is the always Lawson. So, like, anyway, I for today, I was team
today,
Nico.
I found it funny because it literally was... it was going to be factual commentary today. Crofty was not going to be allowed to get away with anything that was remotely fringe-worthy and
no
trying to
cheerleading.
get us, the viewer. Yeah, no cheerleading. Nick was like, no, I'm not here to cheerlead. Nope, shut up, Crofty.
He does F1 for experts. They write all these books for dummies. He does F1 commentary for experts, which I think is part of what turns me off a little bit. But then on lap 10, as we said, they do swap the Ferraris. And it immediately brought back a couple races ago.
Sainz 1.4 behind. You want to let pass as well?
Do you want me to let him past as well? No sarcastic commentary from Lewis this time. No, hey, are you out there? Did I make you mad from last race? No questions about...
you guys... this is not good teamwork, that's all I'm going to say. In China, I got out of the way when you're on a different strategy.
Understood. We swapped the cars.
Have a tea break while you're at it.
None of that.
No, none of that today.
Didn't hear any of it. They obviously had a heart-to-heart, Fred and the team, and so Lewis backed out. Charles took off, and I was watching very carefully to say, can Charles pull away? Because the bane of the Ferrari swaps has been they haven't worked the whole season.
Yeah.
They swap them, no one
Always.
goes anywhere.
Yep.
And then they swap back, and no one goes anywhere. And they've ruined the tires trying to do the swaps. It worked this time. It worked. I watched, and Charles just kept pulling ahead. He was 4 seconds ahead of Lewis by lap 16. Which is nearly a second a lap, considering they swapped on 10. So what's that, 80.8, 8/10 a second fast, 8/10 a lap faster? That's significant.
Yeah, no, agree. And now at around lap 13 when Lando got Max, again, this was a great little Rosberg insight. But again, he slapped Crofty down with it because Crofty was making some remark about the gap and that Lando couldn't get near Max and has Max got the pace. And he just came in and went, no. When you take off at the beginning of a race, the temperature of the tyres spikes, and this is the first 8 to 10 laps is when you probably stand the chance of doing the most damage to the tyres if you put too much wear through them when they're in this overheated temperature state. So you wait for it to cool off, and then you push, and he'll probably get Max. And that's exactly what happened. I was like, damn, Nico, that was like your little crystal ball. And I didn't realise that. I'd never really heard anybody say that before, that when they take off at the beginning, and obviously they go like crazy at the start, I never kind of thought about this fact that the tyres almost superheat at that point, and that's when you need to be the most careful. So McLaren knew this. It's like, yeah, let Max do whatever he wants to do. We've got him in a minute, and Lando did a good move on him. Ended up 4.5 seconds behind Oscar. And then what I didn't expect to happen was Max boxing.
Early.
14, that was so early.
So early. We were told as this started a few things to watch. We were told there's going to be a two-stopper. We were told the undercut is powerful, and we know track position is powerful. So the undercut is powerful, track position is powerful. Two-stopper, here we go. Max boxes on lap 14. I'm like, hello, there are 66 laps. This is very aggressive. And I'm like, what is this going to turn into? And just to prove, I'll be honest, I was sure someone was going to pull a one-stopper out. I was sure of it. When McLaren boxed late, I'm like, oh, they're going one stop. Watch it. They went from soft to medium, and the mediums could last. No, people boxed 4 times. I was way off. So next time anyone's ever asking me my thoughts on pit stop strategy, don't.
But then round lap 18, some new driver joined the grid.
Come on.
I'm sorry, you did all the notes because I was playing football this morning. I was going through and adding my own pieces to them. And I just saw that 18, Kimi was all over the place, and Mac takes him. I'm not quite sure. It was either standing for Stroll. They got this dude Max to come out.
Max Verstappen. It's the middle name is. And so yeah. No, but Mac at this point was very excited because he came out. He got Isaac on lap 16. He took Kimi on 18. He took George just after that with a huge lunge around the outside. Max and Fernando were making this an overtake fest in places you didn't anticipate.
Outside of corners.
Outside. On turn 3, the outside, and making it stick in the marbles, on the marbles, within the marbles, with marbles everywhere. There were marbles involved. I thought those guys gave us a race to watch the entire time. And by Max going with an extra pit stop strategy, a 3-stopper planned, he had to pass people. That's the only way it works. And in Spain, you don't pass, except today. And it was great. Fernando was showing the home crowd some amazing overtakes, even went off the track one time like a rookie. Just drove straight off. Like, I'm going to go check the gravel. Checking. It's good. It's gravel. We can get back on the track now. I loved it. Like, this was the best Spanish Grand Prix I remember in a long time.
Oh, I agree. And bizarrely, and I might not have watched this properly, but so Alonso's off in the gravel. And then within about what it felt like half a lap, he was back up to where he was and chasing somebody down to do an overtake. I was like, well, hang on a minute. Wasn't he off? Isn't he like way back now? It's like, nope, I can go as fast on gravel as I can on the road.
I mean, he took Colapinto in turn 3. He took so many people in turn 3. And like I said, I just really loved it. And at this point, like I said, they're shooting for McLaren shooting for lap 25 to pit. I'm like, they're definitely going. And if they go 25 on soft, you tell me they can't go like 39 on medium? Why not?
Yeah, and then when this is why I get so angry at the one stopper, because everything this race
41. It would have been 41. I did the math wrong. We took the one.
It's okay. I was going to let it slide. You didn't need to own up to it.
Yeah,
so
too off.
Lando boxes and Max takes his position. Oscar boxes and Max takes the lead, and I'm like, okay, I don't think McLaren have screwed this up because the tyre offset now is like 10 laps difference because
Right.
of how early Max went. So this is just so intriguing to work out what's Max going to do. Do McLaren panic? Do they just stick to their strategy because they know the tyres are going to come to them? Are they wanting stopping 2, stopping 3, stopping? Who knows? I don't think I've said this about the Spanish Grand Prix for a very long time, but I was just glued to it of what is going on with tyre strategy here and just how long can these tyres last. It was
and
funny.
and I'm going to go a little bit ahead, we'll come back, but really fast. On lap 33, GP gets on Max's radio, 33 laps in, 33 to go, you're doing great. And it was such a bizarre thing to say. The commentators and I thought, is this code for like how we're changing our pit stop strategy? Are we going to try to make it from here on in? 33 laps down, we're going the whole rest of the way on these tires. Don't tell anybody. I was trying to figure out what was that. And there were so many things, and I'm typing notes furiously. I'm like, 1 stopper, no, 2. Max might go with 3. Well, Crofty doesn't know what he's talking about. Anyway, so Kimi, let's get to Kimi on lap 24. He took Pierre, and right behind them, he took him right into turn 1. About 3/4 of the way down the pit straight, so just behind that action, Isaac took Nico at the same time on the same straight. And I'm watching this, I'm like, oh yeah, this Spanish. Even though those were DRS overtakes, and even though Isaac's on Nico's was done way before the corner, it wasn't a Jeopardy overtake. It was, I'm just going to drive right by real fast. Still, that was awesome. I was expecting a snoozer. I had things to do this morning. I had like family stuff going on. I had to get a suit on by the end of the race. I brought it to the basement with me. I was all comfortable. I was like, I can send out some emails to my family. I can multitask. Instead, I'm glued to the TV like the gif of the guy chewing on popcorn. Like, this is phenomenal. And these overtakes, even the DRS ones, I'll take it. Yes, there were a few moments. By lap 25 after that overtake I just described, no one in the top 8 was within DRS of anyone at that point. And I'm like, okay.
It didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
It didn't matter
because
you knew it.
Yes.
It was because of tyres and pit stops. It wasn't, this is a one-stopper and everybody's settled into bringing this home now, so it's a snooze fest. This was no one's in DRS because no one's actually on the same strategy right now. Like, everyone's split. What the hell's going on? And then just in case there might have been a chance that Brian might need to write lull in the notes, Alex decided, him and Liam, now they needed to start getting a bit feisty with each other. Liam, to be fair today, do you know what? Liam is an aggressive driver.
Yes.
I love it about him. He goes for gaps.
Yes.
But he sometimes recently has gone and overstepped the line. Today, I think he got it perfect and actually outfought Alex. I don't think anything that happened between the two of them was Liam's fault.
But here's the problem. When you're the class bully and you beat people up at recess every time and take their lunch money, the next time someone falls off the slide just in front of you, they're going to think you pushed them. And so that's what Liam had. On lap 26 or 27, he and Alex tangled. Alex lost his second wing of the race. He was going to box to retire. It was Alex's fault. Alex got the penalty, and he's told about it as he's in like the pit lane. And they stop the car, and they show him. And they're like, but that's not retiring the car. They're all just staring at it. And then he takes off again. I go, what? And then it became obvious. He got a 10-second penalty, served his 10 seconds in the box, so he didn't have to serve it next race in Montreal. Took off, did 1 lap, and then retired the car. Okay, Liam, you got out of that one. That wasn't your fault. Lap 31, 5 laps later, Ollie Behrman and Liam Lawson are involved in it this time. Contact turn 1. And it was, in my opinion, a bit of a dive bomb from Liam. I just gave him a get-out-of-jail-free card. This one was his fault. I think he had this one under control.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like he didn't come in so hot and take 4 people out and lock up. This was just a Hail Mary that didn't really work, is the way I would racing incident. But it was, if you put it on anyone, I'm putting it on Liam. But again, it wasn't vintage Liam. He's more refined.
Yeah, agree. I don't even know where we are now. Where are we? Coming into around the 40s, right?
Yeah, like 36, 40. I mean, at this point, I'm loving the race because Isaac is now 8th, and he's been 8th forever. And it's a solid 8th. And why does 8th matter? Because let me count 7 drivers who have better cars and are more experienced and are ahead of him. You've got Max Verstappen, and these are not in particular order. Max, Oscar, Lando, George, Lewis, and you've got Charles. And then you had Kimi in a much better Mercedes than the V-Carb. And then, but you didn't, because he was always one of those cars ahead. It was Kimi behind him before he retired. It was at times, you just don't see, he's always the best of the rest. He's always, when you get through the Mercedes and the Ferraris and Red Bulls and McLarens, let's bar Yuki and sometimes Kimi. At that point, it's always Isaac. And I'm like, I'm here for this.
100%. Absolutely. And at this point, kind of everyone was sort of suggesting that everyone definitely had to stop again. And like, I'm with you. I'm like, but do they? I mean, those mediums are going to last much longer than the softs.
Track position matters here.
Yeah, exactly. But then all the boxing started happening again. I think we had Max in and Charles in and George in. It was like, oh, okay, we've got a pit fest going on again now. And then what did we have? We had Lewis coming in. Max boxes for his third stop onto softs. And then Lando boxes first due to the risk of undercut. So that was a little bit. I was like, "Oh, is this Hungary all over again?"
Exactly. I'm like, we got to get Oscar in next lap. You cannot let Lando be ahead of Oscar because they saved his race from getting an undercut, but it didn't happen. So we were fine, and I'm thinking, all right. Oscar boxed from the lead, holds a lead. Max is doing a 3-stopper. He's all over Lando in second, who's doing a 2-stopper. I'm like, all right. This is a fun race to watch. We're 50 laps into 66. Everyone's boxed at least twice. We've got some people who are like Max who are doing 3. Liam and Ollie are once again battling like crazy back there. And then this is one of my favorite parts before the safety car. The two of them come down the pit straight, and they are just... It's like the dogs barking at each other through the fence, just nonstop, like bloody murder. If this fence moves, I'm ripping your throat out. And they're just going at it. And then Ollie gets forced off, or whomever it was. And then all of a sudden, there's Max and there's Lando battling for second. And they're like, oh, crap, sorry, didn't see it. Blue flags. And they're trying to get out of the way, and they're bumbling as they do it. And Max goes by and gives them one of these. Hey, Bob, what are you doing?
Ollie almost sideswiped Max out when he tried to, he sort of panicked about getting out of the way. I'm going to get out of the way by driving towards you, right?
Totally. But the best part is he got closer to Lando because of this. Lando lost half a second because Lando was hiding away. He's like, oh, my God, I want to get out of this mess. And then, of course... The wily old campaigner, Fernando Alonso, sees this happening, and he just motors up, and he's like, oh, hey, Liam and Ollie, you guys are fighting? I was way behind, and you had to get out of the way for the blue flags? I'll get in on some of this action. And he grabs a spot on Ollie. I'm like, oh, that was Fernando. And it was well done, and it was a turn 3 again. I'm like, this is Fernando Alonso, my guy, making this fun to watch.
And then Kimi's engine let go. Big style. We didn't see it at first. We just saw him trundling off into the gravel, and everyone's like, "Oh!" I think Nico was saying, "I hope his engine's let go and he's not made a mistake." And it did. It let go big style. It did that thing where we get the puff of smoke, and then the rear axle just locks up and goes, "I got nothing."
And that was when a grenade came across the screen, a safety car, and we're thinking, "Oh, all right, this will bunch everyone up. We'll see what happens." And then Red Bull said, "Let me pull that pin by putting Max on hards," and we're all like. Hearts?
What?
And I don't have the audio yet, but it's
I know which one you're going to play.
It's the Ferrari.
Yes.
Wait, what are these tires?
That was exactly what I thought when Max.
It's just pretend that was Max saying, "Wait, what are these tires?" Sorry, that was a mistake. But they did it on purpose because they had no tires left. Their brilliant 3-stop strategy left them with nothing. The cupboard was bare. They had worn-out softs, worn-out mediums, and one shiny new set of hard tires that no one wanted to touch.
Yeah, and they were kind of like, wait, guys, what you got back there? What new tires you got? What are they? Just bring them. Are you sure?
They're
got
blue.
The white stripe on them.
They're X-wets. They're full wets. If we're sending you out that would have been better. They sent them out on full wets. We'd be talking about it
at this point, there was so much stimulation overload that Crofty just couldn't see anymore because he's freaking out going, what are McLaren going to do? They haven't got enough time to stack them. As we watch both McLarens come into the pit, perfectly double stack, and come out, and Crofty still hasn't noticed any of this. And Nico has to say, the only close thing here is going to be whether Lando gets back out in front of Max because of the double stack they just did. And Crofty's brain still hasn't processed this, and he's kind of like, I don't even think now Crofty knows that McLaren double stacked. But
I don't think so.
So out they come, and they all kind of start filing in behind. I think Lewis was moaning about how many laps they were wasting under the safety car because, again, it felt like it was going on forever. But I think it was because it's probably true what they said on TV about they wanted to let the back markers catch up to the back of the pack,
right.
especially being as one of them was maybe Fernando Alonso. And,
well, I don't think that played
I
into
know
it.
it wouldn't be because of him, but
But you don't give those guys a chance to do any overtakes, and the people in front of Fernando had not boxed, so Fernando's on fresh tires with vulnerable suspects right in front of him. And if he catches up to the pack and everyone slows down, that restart's going to be juicy for Fernando. And let me preview it. It was.
Yeah, I mean, those hards would heat up pretty quick, right? And it wouldn't be like Bambi on ice as soon as we have the restart.
Oh, for Max?
Right? It'll be fine for Max, right?
Yeah, it'd be fine. He's the world champion. He's the best driver on the grid.
Well, he needed to be because I believe he did a complete 360 in the car on the restart.
Because we're going to talk about Mario Kart later, it's almost like he ran over a banana.
Yes.
The car was that sideways as he's coming around the home straight. And I'm like, oh my God, how did he save that?
Yeah, I still don't know how he saved it. He went left, right. He had a tank slapper one way, and then as he corrected, he went nearly fully back the other way. And
do you
then
think Charles had
up.
to lift so that he didn't pass him before the start-finish line, or was it just perfect? Because, I mean, I was actually worried watching from the front because I couldn't see the line. I'm like, did he pass him too soon? Because you're not allowed to overtake after. So two things, just to remind any new listeners and some old listeners like me for the first one. If someone qualifies in the car and then can't race, that car can't be run. Thank you, Lance Stroll, for explaining that to all of us. The one that I did know is after a safety car, when that peels off, you cannot pass the person in front of you until the start-finish straight, no matter what's going on, unless they have a mechanical problem or breakdown.
Start-finish line as well. You've got to...
Yeah, start-finish line. I said straight meant line. So I thought from the front, I'm like, oh my God, did Charles take him too fast? He didn't. But do you think he had to lift so he didn't? It kind of looked like he did.
I don't know, but we just descended into about a 90-second, maybe a little bit longer, but we just had... The red mist just came down for Max. He didn't want these tyres. They were going to be awful. The restart proved it. No grip. Charles breezes by him.
Well, with his elbows out. So they made contact because Charles like, well, it's my spot, my line. I'm fine here. And Max goes, no, it's mine. And they bumped each other. And I think it was more Max than Charles. And that set him off. I think it was
from the overhead camera. Yeah. And then he got all up in it about Charles has hit me. George dive bombs him. That was maybe he properly dive bombed. George wasn't really under control there, I don't think. He's come in hot and heavy on that one.
But hot and heavy. Look at you, Seinfeld. But so there's no villas in all of Tuscany. And so the question I have is, as I watched that over and over for about 3 seconds, because I had to put my suit on and go to an event, the rules, which I hate the rules on overtaking and passing. Again, it's like the NFL. A catch is a catch, but they write it so that it's not a catch. George dive bombed. We both agree. But his front wheels were actually next to Max's front wheels. And more importantly, his front axle was even with Max's mirrors, which is the dumbest points of reference, but okay. So George is now is allowed to have that corner. So when Max and George bump very lightly, but then kind of get close, Max bails out and thinks he's been pushed off the track. But by the letter of the law, George didn't do anything wrong. It looked like George did a dive bomb. But the letter of the law says George is okay. And I think what happened is at Red Bull, they're like, we know this rule really well because it's basically because of Max. And so we think he checked the box, front axle, side mirrors, you have to give that back. I think that's how that played out, at least in my watching.
You think that's why Red Bull told him to give it? Because nothing came up on the screen. Nothing went under investigation. Right. Nothing came up.
I think they were...
And the other week, Red Bull waited until the under investigation thing came up and then decided to take action, but I can't remember why.
I think they're worried he's on hards, sinking like a rock. How do you give this place back if he passes you and other things happen naturally? And you don't... If you give it back,
I think Red Bull
penalties.
Messed up. I don't think it ever went under... I don't know. I would have waited for it to at least got reported to the stewards.
I would have let it be referred as well, but I think they read the rules and they looked at the boxes and said, it's close enough, give it back because you went off and you stayed ahead of him.
I thought there was the rule, though, that if you're not under control, you should dive bomb someone. The axle
but
thing
he wasn't. He wasn't locked up. I mean, like, it looked like a dive bomb.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know why they told Max to give the spot, which just basically just lit the touch paper. If you've ever watched the Pixar film Inside Out and seen the little anger character where his head just blows, that was Max. He's just now completely, it seems...
well, as I said, grenade, pin pulled, explosion.
Yeah. So they basically... tell him to let him through. And
I agree with you, by the way, for the record.
We'll come back to Nico in a minute, because I know we're going to jump over
I
that,
agree with you. They should
back.
not have told him to let him through. I don't think it was worthy of giving the spot back, but I think it was close enough where they said we should do it. That's why I think they did it. But anyway.
So then George comes to take him. Now, I don't know where they said, oh, yeah, George thought he was being given the place back. Did we ever get any team radio that they told George that Max is going to give you the place? So we didn't hear that, but... Max is at least slow enough on the inside of the corner that George just goes, well, I'm coming around the outside because I can take you here.
I actually don't think George knew that, and here's why. Toto was interviewed after the race, the only thing I've seen after the race, and he was, like, immediately after, he was unaware that Max was giving the place back. So you would think Toto would have been on George's team radio at this point because Kimi wasn't running anymore. So you'd think he would have heard someone say, Max is giving the spot back. I don't think they knew that. But he was clearly going slow and on the inside after having just run off the track and kept a spot. So George had to assume he's given the spot back, right?
Yeah. So then he goes around the outside to take him when all of a sudden, I don't even know. Is it the bad hard tires where he gets no grip and he slides into George? It kind of looked like that on first look, but then the replay, the helicopter cam thing was like, hang on, it looks like he's perfectly under control, slowing down, and then just tries the Bowser move to bump the other car out the way. It just looked like he rammed him.
It did.
And I've watched it multiple times, trying not to be kind of like, everyone says, oh, Max gets angry, gets his elbows out, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, let me put all that out of my head. Let's just watch this replay a few times. And I've seen it a number of times now, and I don't think I've seen an angle where it looks good for Max.
I agree. I watched it, and the way he kind of kept going straight back towards the racing line when he'd been on the inside, I thought he locked up at first. I thought those hard tires, because I could not come up with any rational reason why his car just kept going straight instead of following the corner. He was going back towards the racing line, and then all of a sudden, he locks up and he slides right into the side of George. That's what Valtteri did in Abu Dhabi. I can't remember who he slid into, but that's how he ended his race, and he has a 5-second penalty if he runs for Aston Martin next week. But that was what it felt like. But there was no smoke, and then you look, there was no lockup, and you're like, oh my God, he just went nuts. He just lost his mind in anger. He was going to give the spot back, and then he's like, nah, forget it. I don't want to give it back, or I'm not going to give it back here. Whatever the reason. He changed his mind. And what he did, I thought was really bad. I mean, I don't want to be the guy who gets on the horse here, but if Monaco's farce made me angry, Max purposely driving into someone after baiting them into going around made me not quite as angry, because it's Max and you kind of expect him to get angry. But that was really bad, man. You can't go hit another car like that. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, and I know maybe they get interviewed in the heat of the moment and everything's still coursing through their veins and all this kind of stuff. But then the quote of when he was told about George wasn't happy with his antics and and his quote was, Verstappen responded that he would bring some tissues next time. He has his views, I have mine. It just doesn't endear him to anybody that kind of... No, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to. He's not out to make friends. But anyway, what we did skip over, because there was something that happened in between this and the George Ram attack, was Nico Hülkenberg ran over one of those flashing little stars on Mario Kart. Ding, 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 and just starts cruising up behind Lewis Hamilton. I'm like, well, this can't happen. That's a Sauber. That's a Ferrari. This isn't going to... Oh, yes, it is. Yep. Yeah, it is. There he goes.
That's why I said maybe Lewis was slower and Charles wasn't faster. How did that happen?
I really don't know. I sort of watching going, we're watching a green car that looks very much like a Sauber go past a red car that looks very much like a Ferrari. No, my TV's broke. This can't be. The color scheme's all messed up.
And Lewis had boxed for tires, right? On the safety car? He wasn't even out there on, 47-lap old hards. It was wild.
Like I say, it was the magic star that Nico went over.
In my mind, that was the most damning thing for Ferrari in a long time. I know Charles on the podium. I understand that. I understand it's a couple podiums. They've both been luck. You cannot let a Sauber overtake a Ferrari on pace. Sorry, you just can't. That can't happen. And I know there's all these people. There was this dumb rumor this week that we didn't even talk about because it was so stupid. I'm not even firing up the chopper. But it was, would Christian Horner want to be the team principal at Red Bull? Because people are saying, oh, Fred hasn't got enough out of the team. Ferrari. Dumb rumor. Dumb, stupid rumor. But you know what? You let Sauber overtake one of your drivers on pace, rumors will start.
Yeah, no idea. So we got amongst all that craziness that was going on, one man who never really looked under threat at all from start to finish, despite all the different pit stop strategies. Really, it all came to him was Oscar. Led pretty much from beginning to end, brought it home. Lando second, like you say, Charles the other one on the podium. Max ended up getting a 10-second penalty for the incident, which dropped him down to 10th. So we had George the Hulk in 5th, Hamilton 6th, Hadjar 7th, Gasman 8th. I mean, he was witness protection. He's got, what's the ghost one on Mario Kart where no one can see you?
That's right. Did you see him at all once? Did you hear the word name Gasly one time?
No, I thought there were 18 runners today. I thought Stroll, Gasman had gone to condole.
We even saw Tsunoda every now and then.
Stroll.
Yeah.
Yes, not doing much, but we did.
And then, like you say, Alonso in 9th place with
first
2 points
of the season.
First points of the season, and then Mac Verstappen in 10th place for that single point. I was pretty sure he was going to skip all of the interviews, even though they're mandatory, and just get on his jet and fly home. I was pretty sure, like, if he'd been carpooling with Lando, or how do you call it with a plane? Plane pooling? If they'd been plane pooling, I was pretty sure he was going to, like, leave a note. Lando, sorry, left. Catch a different ride. And, like, you'd see Max just buzzing the circuit as they're doing the national anthem. I was shocked he did any interviews.
Yeah, so was I. And maybe in hindsight, maybe he should have got on the plane and just got out of there.
Plane pool someone else next time, Lando.
Oh, man. So, okay, we need to do King of the Pits and the Pits. That's what we need to do.
All right. Let's start with the pits this week. We're going to start at the bottom and then get to the top.
You're the pits.
This is easy. It's Lance Stroll. You can't throw a temper tantrum and re-injure if it is the cause of the re-injury. There's smoke. That BBC report where he threw a temper tantrum and then all of a sudden his wrists got worse. Maybe they were bad, but if they are, you got to get out and baby them and get ready for the race. You can't do quali and do anything to jeopardize your wrist. So I'm giving it to Lance.
I'm giving it to Max.
Oh, that's a good one too.
I'm giving it Max for just the way
that's a better one than mine, actually.
So
I forgot about
it's
that.
probably one of the first times I've ever given the pits to Max. I mean, during a season of domination, we almost like apologetically didn't give him king every week because we just couldn't. But yeah, I think it's the first time ever I'm putting Max Verstappen is the pits.
Do you think there's anything to the fact that with his new baby at home, he was just copying the temper tantrums he sees?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm going to throw my Legos around too.
Well, yeah. So what? Being told that he needed to eat his tea was the equivalent, or his dinner. Sorry, was yeah. I don't know. I knew you wouldn't get that. We'll go dinner. Being told he needed to eat his dinner was the equivalent of being put on hard tires, and he just went into meltdown. And okay,
totally. He threw his binky across the room and ran into George. All right, and with that, let's get to the king of the pits.
Hey, you're the king of the pits.
All right, after you.
I absolutely 100% should give it to Oscar Piastri for being brilliant all weekend.
Yes.
But I'm giving it to Hulkenberg from going from 16th to 5th.
There's so many worthy candidates.
There are, and I'm going Hulk. It's just Hulk smash. There we go.
I'm giving it to the McLaren and Red Bull strategists, Mr. Singh, is it, and Hannah Schmitz, I think.
You can't give it to two.
Strategists.
In a minute.
No, my answer is strategists.
No. It has to be a driver or a team, but you can't.
Strategy.
For which team?
For the track. And so, for the race, for the Grand Prix strategy.
No, because you're going to ruin my update that I'm about to give you if you go and do something stupid like that.
Okay, fine. I have to pick one. I'm going to give it to Piastri. He just didn't do anything wrong. Everyone was losing their minds all around him. The place was exploding. The grenades were going off. And he's just out there tootling along like Mario Kart, just getting as far ahead as he could so that little blue bullet didn't come flying down the thing and hit him from last place. I like Hulkenberg. I wanted to give it to Hadjar. I wanted to give it to Alonso for points.
Yeah.
All of them were worthy. But yeah, I'm gonna give it to Oscar because he was so good. He just no mistakes.
So, after 9 rounds, which means 18 votes between the two of us, before we go into this 1 week break before Canada, a little update on our. I've been keeping a track of the King of the Pits and the Pits every week. You see, no, I know you didn't know it. So, out of a possible score of 18, leading the way on King of the Pits votes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So half of our votes so far. Oscar Piastri is leading the way on King of the Pits for our end of season Super King of the Pits award, and the Pits. We are very split, and really, the fact that he's leading with 1, 2, 3. That's all it's taken is 3 to take the title so far of the Pits. Is Liam Lawson. But
like we said, he's been pushing people down the slide at recess every time.
He's got Mercedes. No, sorry. There's 3 for Mercedes. Mercedes are right behind, tied with him for 3 pits. And then right behind them with 2 votes are Pirelli.
Can I just say one thing about Mercedes? This was a hot race. And there's some concern that I'm seeing online, both about hot race pace, but also hot race just ability to weather the heat and have the engine last. Because they've had some engines let go as owner, works team and customer teams, and it's warming up. And there's some question that says, does the heat throw a monkey wrench into the Mercedes power unit? Whether that's pace or the ability to actually finish the darn thing running. I guess we'll find out. But somebody knows more than us is Pitlane Paul. Let's hear from him on this race experience. All right, Paul.
Hey, I won't lie to you. I am really struggling today. We had a few watching the soccer last night. Had a few little drinkies, and I think it's a sure sign of getting old when you feel the way I do, even now. And also like, Spanish Grand Prix, it's now, I don't think it's ever really been a race that's been too exciting, so I'm sort of quite looking forward to lying on the sofa and getting, just a little bit of a snooze. It's nice to have a bit of a snooze, but guess that wasn't really how it panned out, was it? I mean, qualifying, okay, whatever. Again, I don't think there's any massive shocks. I think qualifying goes exactly how you want it to go at the moment. The race starts then, where, let's have a look. There's a lot to pick on this race, let's be honest. I mean, I love Oscar. I know I've said before, he's just so cool under any pressure. And I think Lando did a good job today. Again, I think I criticise him. I might be unfair criticising Lando, but I think I do. I still think with Lando he could. I don't know. There's something with him. He just needs to take the opportunities. Whereas Oscar's just taking the opportunity, in Lando isn't. But then at the end of the day, he's finished second, and I still think that's fine. It's it's in equal cars. But anyway, we don't really want to talk about those two as such because that's just what happened. The fun and the drama happened behind. I mean, it was a really good race. The strategy. See, this is how you almost want the Monaco Grand Prix to be in a weird way. You want this sort of 2-stop, 3-stop. Make it. It was just exciting.
But people were trying to go fast. That's the difference.
And then the late safety car, which again you can't, I know you guys are saying let's have a safety car towards the end of the Monaco Grand Prix. Maybe it would have been good. But we had this late safety car here, and it sort of unfolded a whole world of things. I mean, before the safety car, let's look at some of the other instances. Liam Lawson's an aggressive driver, I think. I don't think there's anything too outrageous with any of his moves. A few of them are a bit brave, but then I'd rather see someone be brave. I think that's the whole point. We moan there's no overtaking, so when there is a driver who wants to overtake, I think we shouldn't moan. I think we should be encouraging. So it was pretty good, and excellent racing. Again, then we had this safety car. Now, Max coming in for the hards. Now, here's my thinking on this. He didn't have an option. He didn't have a choice. Because that's the only set of tyres he had left. Could there be an argument for him just staying out on the set of tyres he's got? I don't know. Probably not. So I think it was a bit hit or miss. I think he's just a bit screwed with what the options he had. So, but I mean, it was never ever gonna be any good going on a hard tyre. We know Max is a frustrated guy at times. George Russell, I sort of agree with the Sky team. There's a fine line, I think, with this about whether a driver has a corner if his mirror's up the inside. I think that's absolutely fair that you could argue that, but then I sort of also agree, I guess, that Russell wasn't really in control of that move. I mean, like we saw, I totally and utterly on board with the fact that if he's up the inside, you've got to. I don't know. I don't know what I like. I don't know if I like that rule. Is what I'm saying. I don't know because I think I know I'm yabbering on here, but I think like there's too much of a grey area to decide if a driver has the corner or doesn't have the corner. If the driver's at the inside and he's in control, how do we know Russell wasn't in control? Ultimately, he made the corner. So I think there could be some level of debate to whether he was or wasn't in control. None of that actually matters because what happened next was really bizarre. I don't think Red Bull should have said to Max to hand the position back. He's already a little bit emotional with what's going on with his tyres. A little bit. You know, the instant to start finish straight Leclerc, there's nothing there. Remember, these guys are trapped in the car. They're not seeing what we're seeing. So we can't shout at people too much for that. That's what it is. Then we had this incident with George. And I'm a defender of Max. I love Max. I think Max is fantastic. I don't actually dislike his character. I think he's got a really good character. Is he aggressive? Is he emotional? Is he a little touch moody at times? I think that's a comfortable yes. What was he doing? I don't know what he was doing. He got a 10-second penalty for, I think 10 seconds for leaving the track getting advantage. I'm not a fan of that, as I said, or whatever. Oh my God, I don't know. At the end of the day, you've got a driver who's got the reputation he's got. We've seen it when he brake checked Lewis in Jeddah, 21, I think it was. You know, we've seen it with Sebastian Vettel ramming into the side of Lewis. You know, it's a world champion thing, clearly.
Thank you.
It was ridiculous, and for a guy of that, I don't know, guys. And I think there's going to be more of a repercussion on this.
I agree.
I wouldn't be overly surprised. I don't know. I don't want to see a race ban. I don't know what I want to see, but you know, whether it's just off on the back of the grid for the next race, but ultimately a punishment has to be given. I understand you're frustrated. I understand that, but regardless of what your emotional state is, it's wrong. And with Max, I love him. I swear he is a top guy. He's one hell of a driver. But you can't do these things, and you have to be held accountable for your options. I find it staggering. Anyway, looking forward to seeing you guys in Canada. We can discuss it more then. By then, we'll know what's going to happen with Max. I don't agree he should be shoved in a Spanish jail for a week and a half, but something needs to be done to stop this happening. We move on. The powers that be will decide it. They need to do something to clamp down on this sort of stuff. Let's see what they do. But an excellent race, and I think for the hammering we all gave Monaco last week, quite rightly so. I think F1 is bounced back, and I think it was a great race today. It's what we need to see. We need to see aggressive racing. We need to see these sort of things in the sport, just not what Max did to George. We can't be seeing that. That's not an example for people. And yeah, the reaction of the drivers in the driver cool-down room afterwards sort of said it all. Oh, God. We always seem to talk about Max Verstappen, eh? See you in Canada.
I love that ending. See you in Canada. We're going to be there.
I know. 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks' time. We're going to be recreating this.
Hey now!
That was Paul.
Hey now!
That was Rob. And the weakest one.
Hey now!
Me. The Hey Now creator. Sucked it up. So, look, but let's finish this out before we hit some quick stats. One, do you think there's more coming for Max?
I kind of think there might have to be. Because if they don't, it sets the precedent. You can do that in 10 seconds is all you're going to get.
I agree. I hate to say
so
it. We live in an evolving world where punishments have become more commonplace to make sure, that's the legislation of things. Baseball, football, penalties. I mean, you see it everywhere. I think there has to be more coming. Now, that said, how do you prove intent? I don't think you can. And they can look at the steering wheel and take his telemetry and look at his braking and his acceleration, but you still don't know what actually, did he do it on purpose? Was he trying to get back on the racing line? Did he know George was there because he just moved over and then said maybe he could come up and say, you know what, I changed my mind. I was going to let him pass before the straight.
He's already had the chance to say that, and he hasn't said it, right? And then, like Paul said, the reaction of all the drivers in the
But he didn't come out and say I did it on
purpose.
purpose. Unless he comes out and say I did it on purpose, I disagree with that. So my point being, I think they're going to come up with some softy penalty, and it's going to be like 2 points on your license. It'll be something like that. No racing penalty, no grid penalty, no time penalty. I think they're going to come up with some like 2 points on your license. Don't do it again. And they may come up with a rule for next season or something like that. But that's my guess. I mean, but I think there's more coming. You think there's more coming?
Yeah. I do think there's more coming. Yeah.
I loved it, by the way. The cool down room, when they cut to the cool down room, and Paul referenced it, but when Lando said, "I've done that before too," long pause, in Mario Kart. God, that was so good.
Oh. Right, do you want to break out some SAP stats and then we can wrap up this race weekend?
Do it. SAP Stats Spanish Grand Prix edition for 2025. This is McLaren's 52nd 1-2 finish in Formula One, their first in Spain for 25 years. We heard that a lot on the telecast. It was Hakkinen and Coulthard in 2000. 2000? God, that was a million years ago.
I thought they said like 1999 on the... Yeah, but, I'm not going to debate your stats.
Don't, because I stole that one from Sean Kelly. And so it was Piastri's 5th win of the season. We heard that a lot. Even Terry Crews was saying that. I love Terry Crews. Can you keep him away from the paddock, please? He doesn't know crap about F1, and it drives me nuts. Piastri became the 3rd McLaren driver to score 8 consecutive podium finishes. I love this stat. Piastri became the 3rd McLaren driver to have 8 consecutive podium finishes. Do you know his partners?
Yes, because I can see the notes.
So who are they?
Some driver called Ayrton Senna and another one called Lewis Hamilton.
I mean, when you talk about being in company with those two, holy moly. The Spanish Grand Prix was won from the front row for the 32nd time in 35 races. Again, why we normally expect a snoozer from this. Charles Leclerc's P3 was his first Spanish Grand Prix podium finish in his 8th visit to Barcelona. He'd never been on the podium before. That was a shocker to me. It was Ferrari's first podium in Barcelona since 2017, which would then tell you why Charles hasn't been on the podium for a while. And he didn't do it at Sauber either. Mercedes' George Russell started and finished 4th in Spain for the 2nd consecutive season. So 2 races, 2 years, start 4th and 4th. Okay, so George is 4th in Spain. Just lock it in for next year. Nico Hülkenberg's P5 was the best result for Kick Sauber since the 2022 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, where Valtteri was P5. That's right, Valtteri.
This is Valtteri Bottas, and you're listening to the dirty side of the track.
And if I remember right, and I'm really digging into my mind muscles here, 2022, that 5th place was the tiebreaker for Sauber to finish like 8th instead of 9th, because that was the highest finish of whomever they tied at that season.
Ooh. Could be, yep.
I believe that was an important one for them. Lewis Hamilton's P6 for Ferrari was his worst Spanish Grand Prix result since colliding with Nico Rosberg, the commentary man, on lap 1 in 2016. Racing Bull's rookie and heartthrob of Brian's Isaac Hadjar in P7 scored a career-best finish for the 2nd consecutive week. He was P8 in Monaco, P7 here in Spain, and I'm assuming in front of us in Canada, P6 on the cards for Isaac. Gasly, who apparently was in the race, was P8 for Alpine. It was his best Spanish Grand Prix result since finishing 8th for Red Bull in 2019 at the Spanish Grand Prix. And then here's the last couple that are just nice little notes. Alpine scored points in a Grand Prix for only the 2nd time this season. Is that possible? I thought they'd done better than that.
Nah.
I was shocked that was only the 2nd time. I recognize we're not that far into the season. But speaking of the first or 2nd times, Fernando Alonso's P9 was his first point finish of the season. We've made a lot of that, so we're happy to get him off the schneid, as we'd say in the Midwest. And Williams, Carlos Sainz. Williams. A weekend to forget He was P14, at least he finished the race, and had extra wings left over. He failed to score for the first time in 11 career Spanish Grand Prix starts. His home race, 10 races, always got a point. Now he finishes 14th, and his first time around Williams.
Do you think Williams knew right from the beginning, like, because they drive so many laps around this track as part of testing? Do you think they rocked up just knowing, guys, there's nothing we can do this weekend. The car's going to stink here.
High speed, apparently it's the high speed corners, which they don't do well with, and I'm assuming the heat. Some combination of the two makes their car, well, actually makes a lot of Mercedes powered cars, except for McLaren's, look like crap.
Yeah, but McLaren's not Mercedes powered. Remember, they're McLaren powered. Like I said the other week, I don't consider them a Mercedes car. They're just a McLaren. That's what they are. So that's why that's
how that works. They make the engine in Woking, do they?
Yep.
It comes off the line.
McLaren pieces, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good, right? They dip them in that lake in front just to solidify them, and then there you go.
Yeah, so they do it. Okay, right. Casino game updates. I gotta say, I'm a little bit happy about this one, Brian. The roulette table.
No.
We had to pick who would finish 6th. I said Lewis Hamilton, and guess where Lewis Hamilton finished?
What? All it took was Max Verstappen throwing a grenade into the race and Nico Hulkenberg passing him. But yes, he finished 6th.
Yes, he did. You had Charles, so Charles finished way ahead. So there we are. In 3-card poker, we tied. We both got 2 cards, but we didn't get them in the right order. So I picked Alex, Carlos, Yuki, but it was Yuki then Carlos. You'd picked Lando, Oscar, Max, but it was Oscar, Lando. If you'd only gone with your actual predictions that you made midweek, you would have actually nailed the front 2 orders. So we tied on that one.
By the way, that's the first of the 2 times I'm going to have banked on Max being on the podium, and it cost me dearly.
Yeah, we'll come to that soon. Blackjack, I scored 15 points through Charles. Nice. You scored a solitary point through Max because Kimi and Alex didn't score anything for us, so I kind of smashed you in Blackjack.
Max screwed me again.
Yep. Overall, in casino games, I needed that this week because I hadn't realized, I hadn't looked at the points tally for a while. I don't think we've actually ever given them out. So again, after 9 races, I have 9 points, fans 1, whatever you want to call it, to Brian's 11. So I needed to win a couple
It was
this week
6 to 11 before that? I was kicking royal butt.
I know. And now, another one, not. and then the flip side, you needed this on our podium predictions. You nailed it because you had Oscar and Lando in the correct orders. So you got 3 points. You got the bonus points for getting those, whereas I said Lando, Oscar, so I didn't get them. So I got 2 to your 6. That now puts you 27 points to my 30. So that's pulled that right back in as well. So
tightening everything up before we have a head-to-head face-to-face battle in Canada. We should have some, as you would call them, forfeits, like things where however well we do or not, you have to like walk back out of the park backwards with no shoes on. You know,
you have to walk over the bridge in the wind and the rain. In just your underwear.
But you have to be touching the side rail the whole time.
No, not the side rail. No.
Which comes up to your knee.
Yeah, that's awful. Right, okay, so then just before you do the fantasy update, the standings mean, if we look at the driver's title, Oscar winning has extended his lead to 10 points. It's 186 to 176. Max took an absolute body blow this week with his only single point, so he's down at 137. So he's nearly 50 points off Oscar now. It's almost 2 race wins behind. George pooted along in 4th, but Charles making a little bit of a charge here on 94 to George's 111. Lewis on 71, Kimi Antonelli on 48, Alex Albon on 42, Isaac on 21, Bestie on 20. That's our top 10 there. Although I feel like I should go down to 11th because Hulkenberg's up to 16 points now. He's jumped ahead of Lance Stroll, Carlos Sainz, Gasman. So yeah.
You think any of the upgrades they brought were the reason this happened this way?
I mean, you've got to say a little bit. Where did
Bortoletto?
I mean, Bortoletto finished 12th, which is great for him. I mean, he's only
was ahead of he finished ahead of Yuki, Carlos, Franco, Esteban.
Haas, yeah, maybe they did get something right with the upgrades there. We'll see, I guess.
It'll be the first time in like 3 years. Sorry.
Just quickly on that, this goes to show how consistency matters as well. Because Oscar's only 10 points ahead. When you look at wins, he's 5-2 up over Lando and Max. It feels like he should be miles clear because he's 5-2 up on wins. But Lando just keeps getting a win every now and again. If he doesn't, he makes sure he gets on the podium, usually the second step if he doesn't win it. So I think it's these two taking it down to the wire. I said it last week. I think Max is going to have too many weeks like this where he'll take a little bit of a hit. And I never see him, unless these two up front tangle one week and take each other out and Max wins the race. I just see it. I see it slipping from Max. I don't see him being in this title fight at the moment, but he could shock us. McLaren are way out now.
Way out.
362 points over, not Mercedes.
Wow.
Because Ferrari are in second spot. And I think they've jumped because I think it was Mercedes were in second spot last week, right?
Because at one point I had joked when Ferrari was catching up, you said it was a two-team battle for a second. I said, what about Ferrari? They're second now, 165, Mercedes 159, Red Bull 144. When Max gets 1 point and Yuki gets 0, that is a bad week for a constructor.
Yeah, yep. And then we've got Williams down in witness protection in 5th. We got Isaac is given the points there to keep V-Carb up in 6th. Haas in 7th. And then sorry, what's this? I see a team called Sauber in 8th and not anchored to the bottom of the constructors.
And they would be 8th over 9th, tied with Aston Martin because of that 5th place Nico finish.
Yep. And that means Alpine slumped the bottom of the charts. Jack Doohan has got to be sitting somewhere, and I'm sure he doesn't want to feel too smug about this, but going, so, how's that Colapinto switch working out for you guys?
Yeah, looking good over there? Fantasy. All right. So let's talk about what happened here, and then I want to talk about what I did with my team. You can talk about what you did with your team. But first, 310 points. Amazing. From Chris Isuzu, from Quoki. Nice job. Big week. The Noobs, Busan's team, 302. Nui team, Hudeus. Peter, I like that. That's in 3rd place. Switch to Plan B, Michael, a fantasy guru. Tails I Win, Andy, in 5th. He apparently was able to get out of Legoland and get his team in. Yank the Mic, Michael, 6th place. And then there's a lot of 6th place ties. They all had there is a template. It was Oscar, Isaac, Franco, Lawson, Gabriel, Bortoletto, and then McLaren and Ferrari. Everyone had 274 points who did that team. That was the team I had that I was about to play, but I changed it at the last minute. The other people who had the template, 44th Gear, Gavin, Box1, Patrick, F1 Fantasy Tools, F1FantasyTools.com, Fan Amp Fantasy HQ, Adam, Formula Fantasy Hub, Fantasy Rob, Lost My V-Carb, Kevin, Naya, F1 Team Naya, Nothing Just an Incident 1, Ryan, San Gaucho, Asir, The Kurdish Boy, Dahan. Dude, that's a lot of people with the same team, and all of the experts were basically running that team, with the exception of maybe Andy and Michael. So that was the team I had. I finished 25th, not far behind him, 18 points behind, just enough to be behind. And the reason I'm so frustrated is I sold everything for a piece of a young upcoming driver. I bought stock in a guy no one's ever heard of called Mac Verstappen. And I said, Mac, can you turn my team around, please? And I went with Oscar and Mac, and then I went with McLaren and Racing Bulls and Isaac. And then I just took 2 cheap guys with Colapinto and Bortoletto. And I'd been building for this, and I wanted to build budget, but I also put my faith in Racing Bulls, and I thought that was the risk. I'm like, God, please be good. Please don't let my whole strategy go to crap on Racing Bulls. No, they were great. Mac Verstappen hosed me up with his little temper tantrum, and instead of getting 45 or 50 points in his driver of the day and all that mess, I got 17. I'll take 17. It's better than 0, but I got the same amount of points from Isaac Hadjar. I didn't expect to pay 17 times more money for Mac Verstappen and get nothing out of it. I'm done.
Mine was a little bit annoyed, but I guess I had to take a small victory, which was that, like I said, that Wi-Fi in the swimming pool that I was in was just so bad. I did my team changes, and it just wouldn't take. I kept hitting the update button, little spinny whirly symbol of doom, and it would never take. It would say it had done it, and the next time I'd go into the app, it was back at my previous team. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to change my team. Finally, the save went through. I did the same thing as you. Think I had Charles and Oscar as my 2 main drivers. Had V-Carb and McLaren. The cheap driver I picked up because he'd hit the floor was Alonso, 4.5. So I was real happy with him bringing in some points. But the thing that wouldn't stick, that would have given me about an extra 40 points maybe this week, was it would not save my change from Charles being on 2 times to Oscar. And I kept pressing it and hoping it would save. Kept doing it, wouldn't save. So I ended up with Charles being 2 times. Which, you know what? He finished third, gets 2 times the points. But Oscar winning and pole and all that kind of good stuff. It is what it is.
Yep. So after the Spanish Grand Prix, 44th gear, Gavin is first overall in the league. L-Plan 1, Andrea second, and Box 1, Patrick third. Good job, everybody.
Right, so that puts a bow around a rather entertaining Spanish Grand Prix, which, like we said before, we've not said that many times on this pokey little pod. I would say probably never. I would say this is we're in our 4th season of doing this. So the 3 previous Spanish ones, I think, have all been a snooze fest.
Yeah.
I think you've written lull over notes many, many times on the Spanish Grand Prix.
What a Spanish for lull, probably. And you
know
what?
Well done, Spain.
And here's the thing. We debated when they came out with the Madrid track, which launches next year, the street track. We get 1 more year of Barcelona, Madrid will have a double Spanish dip, I think, next year. I could be wrong on that. But my point is, we didn't cry a ton for Barcelona falling off the calendar. I know I said, there's something comforting about it, and I'm okay with it. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not good. Man, now I'm bummed. You can tell me we got to stick with Mexico, but we get to lose this? Now, if Mexico delivers this year, on the other hand, I will formally apologize to Mexico. But it hasn't in forever.
I know. So, yeah, it was a good race. Nothing to look forward to next week other than probably, I'm just going to go out on a limb, Brian, and say maybe a ridiculously self-indulgent, overexcited preview of Canada.
Yes. I don't know if anyone's aware, but Rob and I are going to Canada this year. 23, 25. Apparently, we'll be going in 27 again as well.
We have new T-shirts printed. I'm waiting for them to come through. They are promised delivery by the 6th of June, which is in good time for me to package them up. We've got just three T-shirts to be ridiculously self-promotional as we walk around and show everybody our Dirty Side of the Track T-shirts and try to talk to random strangers and convince them to listen to the pod.
As you try to talk to random strangers, as I get in the line for the bathroom.
True, because we do have to realize that I'm going with the man who has the bladder the size of a peanut. I mean, I said to you, you should do if you are going to drive for Aston Martin, you're going to have to do the bladder trick that we didn't talk about, where they say that Max doesn't apparently drink his water. He puts it down between his legs to lower the center of gravity. Maybe you put an empty bottle down there, and you could just pee into it during the race, and then you'll speed up as your center of gravity gets lower.
Yeah, we should do that. Lee had a good article about that on the Discord. So join the Discord. You can always find things like that. Rob, anything else for you, my friend?
Nope.
This was a better race than expected. It was entertaining start to finish. It obviously ended with chaos, which made it on-track chaos, which made it okay and interesting in my book. We appreciate you all listening. Have a wonderful week. We'll be back next week with at least a Canada preview, if not more. Talk to you all soon. Be well, be safe.